Hello everybody. Hello chat. I believe it's the screen. There we go. Oops. Oh. Hello. How are we tonight? How is everybody doing? I'm doing very lovely as usual. As per usual. Hello Ellipti, Lunar, Skitty, Crenshaw. It's fantastic to see you all here. I just got back from a run and I updated this summary. Because I left to do that last minute, and so I was like 10 minutes before stream started, like quickly writing it up. I'm good, excited for a chill hour or so. Hell yes. Hello Celeste. It is so lovely to see everybody. We will wait another minute or so, and then I will, as usual, do our little summary. Little news, little fun thing. We now have a VODs YouTube channel. Nothing is, or I have like 2 chapters uploaded right now. But it will be updated soon to have all of it. So when Twitch inevitably bamfs these VODs from existence, from into the void, they will be on YouTube for people to access. And I will try to also, like, if we just do any streams in the future, if I'm doing like art streams or whatever, I'll try to put them on the VOD channel too, just so we can have them. I really regret not having a VODs channel earlier, because there were some video game playthroughs that I did really early before like my channel blew up, or before I think blow up's a bad word, but like before I got into the art stuff, that I think I would have liked to keep for personal use, but so be it. It's gone to the void. So we'll keep that updated. It's just Christopher VODs, or you can do exclamation point VODs to get to the link in to get the link in chat. But so we have that now. And that'll be all that channel is for. And that's pretty much it. So yeah, we will wait another minute or so, and then we will do summary. Then we'll hop right in. Yes, that's the link, Lunar. I technically have all of the VODs uploaded, but some of them are privated because I just haven't gotten around to editing because I edit the chapters. So, because when you're in a YouTube video and there's like chapters to the video and you can like click on, where, whatever. I have chapters of like when, the stream, like when we actually start doing the chapter, and then when we're talking in post or whatever. I would have loved to see Hive Swap Chapter 1 again. Also Rip Cult of the Lamb. Yeah, like those kind of streams where it was like, man, I kind of wish I had kept those. But so be it. Twitch takes them away into the ether. So I played The Great Ace Attorney all on stream like 2 years ago. Maybe not 2 years ago. At least a year ago. And I had such a fun time. It was such a fun game. And I didn't save any of it, which sucks because I had a blast with it. But so be it. I get why Twitch can't save every single VOD for the rest of time. Because they can't store all of that on their platform. But it still kind of sucks a little bit. So yeah, speaking of cool games I'm playing, I'm currently playing through Outer Wilds. I just started it last night. And it's really fun so far. I get kind of spooked with those types of games. Just like the vastness of space is kind of spooky to me. But I'm having a good time with it. And I've heard it's a fucking amazing game. And yeah, I've been playing it between, whenever I take breaks working on art stuff. It's been a very fun time so far. So yeah, okay, let's do a quick summary of last chapter. So the very end of last chapter, essentially, last chapter was kind of mostly just, thank you, Crenshaw, for this stretch. Oh my goodness, you hear oh my gosh, my bones are all cracking. So very end of last chapter, we just kind of had, Carcat, Rose and Dave finally got back to their dorms after Karkat and Dave had the most like the like stupid little idiot gay boys with their dumb little confessions and their dumb little cute kiss. They had that, and then they had to quickly rush to head to the teleporter, taking a ride in Mr. Egbert's car with June and Jade. They all get back to the dorm room. Karkat does a tarot reading, and does a tarot reading on the relationship between him and Dave, and he accidentally puts down 2 sets of cards, and he gets a set of cards representing his relationship with Dave, but then he also gets a set of cards representing his relationship with Solux, and he draws the for the first set, he draws the Knight of Cups, which is representative of Karkat, the Knight of Swords, which is representative of Dave, and then a Wheel of Fortune, which is the state of the relationship. And then for the second stack, he draws Judgment, which is inverted, which represents him, the Two of Swords, or not Two of Swords, Two of Swords, Two of Swords. Two of Swords, which represents Solux, and then Five of Wands, which represents the relationship. And then he kind of looks over the cards, and he ponders about his platonic, but not actually. No, it's not platonic, but it's not romantic. I'm not sure what's going on with Dave, huh? Not even here, but he's really frustrating you. Oh, what a guy. Anyways, so last chapter was very kind of fun times after we got such an intense chapter for the Midnight City. So now we're on to another. This is a beefy chapter. So let's pop right in. Let's get started. This is chapter 10. Let me adjust the music levels a little bit on my side. Just turning them down. And then here we go. Okay. Not chapter 10. This is chapter 11. Arsonist's Lullaby. All right. Oh wait, this is Jade. Okay. He's definitely bigger than before. We didn't have any snakes on my island, so I've never really seen one until now, Jade says in wonder as she peers at Solux over breakfast. Dave is sleepily eating cereal and has helpfully stabbed the rest of his food into tiny chunks on his plate, presumably with the intention of feeding Solux eating some. However, Solux's body, which is now about as long as the distance between your fingertip and elbow, is mostly curled around Dave's coffee cup. You stare at his little forked tongue flicking into the coffee that should be far too hot. I don't think you're getting that back, Dave, June warns him. Nah, he can't drink the whole thing. It's fine. And yeah, he's definitely bigger now. I think that's a good sign, Dave muses. Which should be of greater concern, a caffeinated snake or an uncaffeinated Solux? Rose wonders aloud. He doesn't need sleep though, right? You point out. Yeah, and I do, and Solux isn't the easiest person to sleep with as a snake, so give me the coffee, Dave agrees and starts unwinding Solux from his mug. Wait, you sleep with him? June laughs, asking the question that had leapt right to your mind, but you were too chicken to ask. He needs warmth. He's cold-blooded right now. Don't look at me like that, Dave mutters and drinks his snake-contaminated drink. You then have to watch a snake eat a chunk of broken-up sausage, and after that, you really don't feel like eating much. It's probably a good thing. You have your first magical combat class this morning, now that the schedules have been all arranged properly. You're a little worried about getting hurt in this class, and you'd really not like to lose your breakfast from getting attacked, so maybe it's a good thing that you stop now. The class itself seems to be an almost all-day affair, which you suppose explains the scheduling snaffus with arranging the thing. Nevertheless, your group makes its way there together. Jade is the only one who's been to the sports center of your university. Seemingly, the rest of you are all just too nerdy or lazy to check that kind of thing out for yourselves, so she's the one who takes you all. The class is being held in a room which seems to function as both a lecture amphitheater and a training hall. Like your regular lecture halls had a baby with your high school gymnasium. This place also smells of sweat and fear, perhaps a hint of social ostracization, but maybe that's you projecting. The gathered class is pretty large, and they're not all people you're vaguely aware of. from your other classes. You suppose this isn't a class you're really supposed to be taking right now, so you're probably lumped with some more senior students. Across one end of the training area, you can see targets and humanoid dummies set up. Points are marked out on the floor in paint of varying colors, though you've no idea what they signify. Across one wall is a wide array of weapons, some of which you've never seen before, not even on movies or TV. None of you are sure if you should sit down at the tables and chairs in the lecture area, or if you should line up like it's a gym class, which results in the whole gaggle of students just loitering uneasily in a spread of mass somewhat near the door. You see Dave's head jerk up all of a sudden, and notice that around his neck, Solix is looking up as well. You shift your gaze upwards and jolt in alarm when you see a woman descending from the ceiling, but no ordinary woman, a spider woman. Not the Marvel kind, but a woman with long black hair and a humanoid body that at the waist shifts into the body of a giant and horrific spider. Her bright yellow eyes are wide with delight behind her glasses as a few more students catch sight of her and scream in alarm. The woman touches down on the floor on her 8 hairy spider legs and tosses her long hair back over her shoulder. One of her eyes has so many pupils in it that it makes you feel kind of ill to look at her. Good morning, class. Welcome to Magical Combat Training. For those of you who make the cut, I will be your teacher, and you can call me Mindfang. She smiles, sharp with fang. What do you mean, if we make the cut? June calls out. Ah, a sensible question. Due to scheduling problems, this class is oversubscribed, and instead of wasting my efforts teaching all of you and lowering the standard of my teaching, I intend to skim this class down to only the cream of the crop. Those of you who don't pass are welcome to try again later when this class is less packed. But for this run, I want those of you with natural talent, and I will only be taking 30 of you on this course. I will hand these out to those who are successful, Mindfang explains, holding up a bag of some kind of small blue object. Natural talent? I don't have a natural talent for anything, you whisper. Don't sell yourself short, Carcat. You'll be fine, June whispers back. You're not exactly reassured, especially as this class is probably double that size at the moment. If you want to take this class with your friends, you have to beat out over half of the other people here. You don't think you can do that? Man, this is stupid. I don't want to do this, Dave mutters. Solix rears up and gently bumps his snout at Dave's cheekbone. I know, I said I would, so we'd all take the same class, Dave sighs, seeming to relent without Solix even having to use words. I don't see the need to teach you any offensive spells just yet. If you need me to teach you the basics, then I doubt you'll be better than the average. So with that said, the best defense is a good offense, and I want to see your offensive capabilities. Step forward in any order you like. Tell me your name, take a weapon if you feel you need one, and attack one of my training dummies. Away you go, Mindfang says airily. Your classmates all look at each other, clearly thrown and confused by this instruction out of nowhere. There's no teaching or lead into this, just away you go? It seems that hesitation is not shared by everyone. In a rare change from the usual, Rose is wearing her hair up today, held in place by 2 long needles, almost like knitting needles. Needles which she is removing as she slides through the crowd like a ship through water, everyone parting instinctively to get out of her way. Mindfang's eyes focus on Rose as she calmly and confidently walks out to the front of the room and stops before her. Rose Lalonde, Rose says simply, and shifts the 2 metal needles so she has one in each hand. Oh, do go ahead, Mindfang smiles in a way you can only describe as predatory. Rose flicks her hair out of her eyes and strides towards the targets. She stops a good distance from them and squares herself up against her mark. She touches the tip of her needles together and pulls them apart again, trailing vibrant lavender and black light through the air. As her backhand raises above her head, the light gets brighter and brighter until you swear you can see some extra color that shouldn't even exist. The air becomes dark, and Rose seems to almost glow, her eyes fully incandescent. When Rose fires off twin beams of light, there's not a loud bang or a crash. Rather, it's the inverse of that sort of sound, a negative sound that makes your ears throb just as much, and when you're done blinking spots from your eyes, the training dummies are nothing more than cinders. Rose nods to herself and turns to Mindfang for appraisal. Very nice indeed, Mindfang says in a pleased rumble that one might almost call a purr. She tosses Rose a blue token from her bag and directs her to stand in the other half of the room. Other students are stepping forward now for their evaluation, and some are doing well, some less so. Those who do exceptionally well get a token, and those who do not just stand there on the other side without. You're absolutely not going to make the cut at this rate. Panic starts to fill you. You don't have any innate magical ability like that, nor do you have any kind of weapon or proficiency with any that you could borrow from the wall like a few other students are. But Mindfang didn't say you couldn't use magic, or at least she wasn't specific that it had to be instinctual. I need a pen, you whisper and dig through your bag. Dude, what are you doing? Dave whispers. It's the only plan I have, and it's probably a bad one, you mutter as you outline a circle on your forearm. Hey, you, why do you have a snake? Mindfang asks out loudly, rising up from one of her many legs to peer at Dave. Oh, he's not a snake. Or, well, he is at the moment, but he's a demon. He's just not himself, Dave explains. He's a student here? The demon one I heard about, Mindfang asks. Dave nods and she checks her sheet. Soluk's captor, she asks, giving his name a very specific intonation that seems to make Soluk shudder and makes your teeth ache slightly. Yeah, that's him, Dave nods. Well, he can either drop out of the class or take the test like that, but you can't help him, Mindfang insists. That's, Dave starts to say, but Soluk slithers down from his neck and winds around Dave's ribs. Dave seems to lose his train of thought and stumbles back slightly as Soluk slides off of his leg and then along the floor towards the test area. Dave shakes his head, gathering himself, and reaches out as if to stop Soluk's, but he's already gone. Your eyes widen as you watch Soluk slither away, getting bigger and bigger as he goes. By the time he reaches the test area, he's at least as big around the middle as you are, and twice as long as he is tall in his regular form. He rears up like a cobra, and a cobra-like hood appears to fold out of his neck with a pattern on it, just like his bicolored eyes. Solux opens his mouth, and with a crackle of red and blue light, and with a blast, much like the one you saw at the night at the club, he obliterates the target. Immediately, Solux shrinks back down to the same size as before, perhaps a little smaller. Mindfang blinks at the targets and conjures up new ones into existence, before grinning at Solux and tossing him a blue token that he catches in his mouth. Across the other side, Rose scoops Solux up in her arms and holds him close like a baby. Solux certainly doesn't seem to mind. You're starting to panic now as you hurriedly plan out the spell you need in your head. It's essentially a variation on the fire invulnerability spell you learned in C. Rather, it's you fucking it up in a very deliberate and terrible way on purpose. Include self-subject, self, spell tether, raging storm and rain, void setup, spell setup, void cast, if, self on fire, self apply fire, delay 1. Dave sighs and steps forward. He doesn't look happy about this. Rather resigned to his fate, he gets into place in front of the targets and holds a hand out to his side. A sword on the wall glows red and flies over to him, smacking into his palm with a dull noise. Dave readies a fighting stance and then vanishes for a split second. You wouldn't be sure he'd done anything if not for the way that a few moments later the dummy falls apart. What the fuck? They've been completely sliced to bits. You didn't even see him get over there. Needless to say, he passes. When Jade steps up, she warps space around the dummies, fracturing and twisting space around them until they're warped beyond belief. When she finally lets go, they snap apart in pieces, and Jade is given a token of victory and sent to the other side. There's only about 10 of you left, and June has been lingering by your side, watching you right on your arm. She's the one who finally nudges you ahead, and you're left with no choice but to go up. Carcat Vantus, you say nervously, looking up at Mindfang. She peers down at you, her unsettling eyes skimming over your arm. I didn't say you could do that, she says, pointing at your arm. Right, but you didn't say we couldn't either. You just said offensive, you point out. You got me there, Mindfang shrugs. She seems somewhat amused by your gutsiness to pull a move like that. You face the newly resummoned targets and hope against hope that this will work. You think of the storm, the raging weather, and you feel the magic on your arm catch. Fire bursts over your skin, running over you, your clothes, your whole body. It doesn't hurt you, and you're left to walk towards the dummies entirely on fire. As you walk, you feel out of it, like you're out of sync with yourself somehow, and there's a subtle warmth over your nose, your temples, your eyes, that spell on your skin. You're walking through fire with purpose. You've done this before. You're here in this strange classroom, but you're not. You're in a burning building with desperate people crying out. You're walking through burning streets looking for a man who will tell the tale of all this in a diary, in another city directing people to go that way instead, as fire harmlessly ignores you. Something like this can't hurt you. It never has been able to. You're barely aware when you reach the dummies as you pull the fire from yourself by plucking its very essence away and open your hand once more, letting it flare over them instead of you. The thoughts in your head snap back into place and you step back from the burning dummies and look at Mindfang, still a little numb. That was interesting. Here, she says, and throws you what appears to be the last token. You lot may as well leave. You're not getting into this class without one of my tokens, and I don't give out extras, Mindfang says, looking at the group that you just came from. Wait, what? Dave gasps. June is still on the other side. Wait, let me try, June insists, stepping forward. I doubt, Mindfang starts, but June ignores her, marching past to the wall and grabbing down a hammer so large you're stunned she can hold it, let alone carry it with such ease that she seems to. As with you, Mindfang seems to admire her confidence and obligingly summons 3 more training targets at the end of the arena. June draws in a deep breath. She stands there still in the sunlight streaming through a large window, motes of dust glimmering as she seems to gather herself. The air shifts enough to make your hair move as June raises the hammer above her head. Lightning rushes over the metal, and when June slams the hammer down into the ground like a funfair game, there's a near deafening bang like thunder, and electricity arcs down the ground and explodes the 3 training dummies. June casually hefts the hammer back onto her shoulder and looks up at Mindfang, who is staring at her. Do I pass? She smiles innocently. Mindfang seems at a loss for words, but pulls a token out of thin air and tosses it to June. Needless to say, the rest of the class who hadn't yet tried out seem to decide to quit while they're ahead and leave. You're still more than 30 people, even just counting those who now remain with tokens, so Mindfang must have another test in mind to thin you all down further. June, holy fuck, how did you do that? You whisper in awe as she comes to stand by you. Oh, June shrugs. I really fucking don't. That's why I said, you cretin. Since when do you have lightning magic or are buff enough to hold a giant sledgehammer like that? You demand under your breath. Hold on. Excuse me. Aw, Cart Cat, I've always been buff. Or maybe you're just a weenie. June snickers and sets her hammer down, only to pick you up with ease in a frankly crushing grip. Oh, I'm not a weenie. Put me down, Egbert, or I'm gonna... It's hard to keep threatening her as she squeezes the breath out of your lungs. When you think you're about to pass out, she drops you on the floor, but at least catches your arm so you don't fall right on your ass in front of everyone. That's something. Mindfang looks around the remaining students now that the ones who failed her test have been filtered out, some with quite bitter muttering. Well, she says, and raises herself up higher on her spidery legs with a self-important look on her face. As I said before, the best defense is a good offense, but sometimes a good defense is actually needed. As such, I intend on testing your defensive skills. How? One student asks after several moments without explanation. Naturally, I will be attacking you with a basic force spell. What you do against this is up to you, if you would be so kind as to stand just there on the green mark, one at a time. Mindfang says casually, gesturing to a mark on the ground with a foreleg, you suppose. Another second or two passes, and then Rose squares her shoulders and marches her way over there, first to step up to the test. The arrangement of their little showdown is such that your side onto both of them. Set back with them, you shift slightly closer to Rose's side than Mindfang's. You have front row spots to a show that you're not happy about seeing. Rose comes to a stop on the mark and pivots on it to face Mindfang once more. She has her needles in hand, and though her demeanor is cool and collected, she is sharp-eyed and clearly ready for action. Mindfang seems to appraise her for a moment or two before lifting a hand and flinging a ball of white light at her. It almost looks like spiderwebbing. Rose casually swipes it out of air with a crackle, the two opposing forces neutralizing each other until nothing remains. A counter, very nice. How about something stronger? Mindfang says thoughtfully, and flicks another attack at Rose's way. Rose repeats her defense, and each time Mindfang ramps up the attack until it's clear that Rose can't deflect anymore. She's shaking, and her face is shiny with exertion. Without her standard hairband, her hair is hanging in her face as she breathes heavily. Unease itches under your skin. You don't think she can take any more of this. Oh, surely you're not done, Mindfang smiles meanly. The expression on her face is one of sadistic glee. Do you have some point to prove? Rose pants, slightly leant over with one hand on her knee as the other remains tight, ready for one of her needles. I wasn't aware anyone could prove anything to a Lond, Mindfang sneers. Ah, Rose sighs. Oh, fuck, Dave mumbles. If you had some issue with my mother, I assure you that I have no part in that, and I think my ability to defend myself has been proven well enough, Rose says tightly. She's positioning the issue in a way that in such a way that there's no way Mindfang can press forward without tipping her hand and showing that she's going hard on Rose because of who her mother is. I suppose you have passed, Mindfang nods, and with her left hand she conjures another token and passes it towards Rose. Rose moves to catch it, but it's her focusing on catching that token that means she doesn't see the surprise attack coming. But you do. She'll be hurt. You're sure of it. You move without thought. You need to protect Rose. A shout leaves your lips, Rose's name, and your hand flies up without your say-so. Nothing touches Rose. You're only half aware of Rose's hand on your back as you stand between her and Mindfang with your hand raised. Between you and Mindfang is a shimmering barrier, a glowing, translucent barrier that shifts between gray and white as it glows like light through storm clouds. Mindfang is wide-eyed in shock. She's talking, but you can't make out what she's saying. You're kind of out of sync with yourself again. You can feel ill intent rolling off Mindfang in waves, and you're only proven right when Mindfang flicks her hand at you, and some spell sizzles on the barrier between her on the one side and you and Rose on the other. Mindfang recoils in alarm and throws another spell, and another and another. The ground on the other side of your barrier is starting to sizzle and melt, and Rose shouts something over your shoulder and waves her hand in front of your face. Mindfang snaps something, her voice angry, and slams a foot into your barrier. You don't like that one bit. Mindfang's legs flail in the air as you repel her back several feet. Mindfang gathers herself to her feet, and she's looking at you now with fear, backing down. Rose is safe. Rose is holding you up. You're halfway to falling over. Karkat, can you hear me? Rose asks you desperately. Dave appears at her side, and on his shoulder Solix is reared up, straight and staring at you, his tongue flicking quickly and intently. What happened? You mumble. You cracked out some serious as fuck defensive magic, is what? How did you do that? Dave asked, clearly as shocked as you feel. More importantly, are you okay? Rose asks. You nod a little shakily and straighten up to stand on your own power. You see Mindfang out of the corner of your eye and jump, but when you turn, you look at her properly. She seems alarmed and wary of you. What exactly are you? She asks in shock. He doesn't know, June answers for you. Have you never seen anything like that before? We've been trying to nail down what he is, not that we've been very successful at it, Jade adds. I'm sorry, I acted without even thinking about it. It's like it wasn't totally me doing it. I feel really weird. You apologize a little weakly. No, don't apologize for strength. You both pass. I've never seen anything like that before, Mindfang says softly. Her gaze is fixed on you, even as Rose pulls you away so that you can both sit down from the rest of the class. Do you need a drink or something? Rose suggests and pulls out one of those sports drinks from her bag. You're not sure if it'll help, but you feel shaky and weird right now, so you can't really say no. You nod and untwist the cap off with trembling hands as Rose hands it to you. You take a sip and rest your elbows on your knees, leaning forward a little so you can try to recover somewhat. Movement catches your eye and you see Solix slithering across the stone slabs, coming over to you. He pauses maybe 6 feet from you and just sits there watching. It's a shame he can't talk right now, Rose says, observing Solix's interest in you. It's not as if he could tell me anything about this, even if he could talk. You shrug and have another sip of your drink. So, you agree that whatever you just did was linked back to whatever species you are that evades your memory. I wonder if the spell you mentioned, the one that's keeping your memory back from you, is weakening with you practicing magic recently, Rose says. What if I'm better off not knowing what I am? What if this thing I am is something terrible? Grabbing fire like that, the power I just displayed? I kept Mindfang off of you, and combat is something she teaches, you say desperately. You hadn't agreed at the time with Rose's mother, but her point about Pandora's box might be relevant here. Maybe this is a mystery that you should keep a mystery. Perhaps you're better off not knowing. That's absurd, Rose scoffs. Is it? Maybe losing my memory was a blessing in disguise. Sure, I feel lost and alienated all the time, but that could be better than the alternative, you point out. No, it's not. For a start, I don't believe that any species or any person is inherently terrible, and I don't think you do either. Being terrible, being a monster, being a villain is a choice, and your species could never be something terrible, Rose informs you rather sternly. The literal demon watching you probably agrees. He's not an asshole because he's a demon. Those two things are entirely unrelated. Secondly, not knowing what you are means that more surprises like this are going to happen. You acted without meaning to, and no one was hurt, but the less you know about yourself, the higher chance you will have of accidentally hurting yourself or someone else. Knowledge is power, Karkat. You will find out what you are. Every new thing that happens gives us more information, and I am intent on finding the truth here, Rose insists. Solix slithers closer and wraps himself around Rose's ankle, giving her a squeeze and booping his little snake snout against her ankle. You assume he approves of this idea. Actually, that isn't surprising. Solix can't tell you what you are, but he was clearly disappointed when you didn't know, so of course he'd be all for you working it out. And Rose helping you do that. She can help where he can't. That and the way he was watching you intently after what you just did. Perhaps he's waiting for you to have a moment of realization, an aha moment or something. It's not happening now, though. You sullenly drink your drink, watching as Jade deflects all of Mindfang's basic attacks by zapping them to somewhere else. It's like she's tugging on the fabric of the world. It certainly feels like some forestry fey fuckery to you. She stops attacking Jade when she's proven her worth. She doesn't keep going like she did with Rose. Thank you for stepping in, though. I'm sure Mindfang wouldn't have killed me, and any injury she caused could likely have been healed, but I'd sooner not be hurt, and I appreciate you sparing me that. I also can't help but note that even in your altered state, you didn't do it so until it became highly likely that I couldn't defend myself further. Before then, you watched me handle it. I appreciate that kind of respect for my own power, at least, Rose remarks. It sucks that she's taking out her anger about your mother on you, you mumble. A lot of people are jealous of her, and her sudden departure from academia left a lot of people feeling as if they unfairly lost their chance to get their last word in, Rose says with a shrug. Oh, yes, it's definitely more unfair on them what happened to her, not her, you two. God, those are some priorities. Sorry. You add that apology when Solix flinches at you saying God again near him. Quite. It was very selfish of her to do that, Rose agrees sarcastically and smirks at you. I liked your mom, you say after a moment. She seemed quite taken with you, too. I feel bad for Jade and June about that, but it's nice to see her talking to people outside of us three. I'm sure you'd be welcome back, Rose says thoughtfully. You'd kind of like that. You're sure she still has her rough moments. You found out about her when she destroyed a book Rose had borrowed after all. Just because she seemed nice when you were there doesn't mean she's always been so easy to deal with. Still, it'd be nice for Rose and Dave to be able to do that normal kid thing and of having a friend over, or possibly a boyfriend. You should really talk to Dave about where you two are, or where the two of you stand, even if the thought of that conversation makes your palms sweat. Speaking of Dave, you watch him stiffly walk out before Mindfang and him going up there. Stiffly walk out before Mindfang, and him going up there causes Solix to quickly abandon Rose and move closer to Dave, as close as he can without interfering with the test at least. Dave's posture is tight, and he's practically shaking. He grips his sword in hand, his face blank but tense. Mindfang throws an attack at him, and he deflects it with his sword, causing the bolt of white spidery energy to curve off in a path that seems definitely slower than it was before. Dave is absolutely shaking now. Mindfang hasn't even thrown as much at him as she had at Rose, but Dave is broken out in a sweat, and it looks like it's more from nerves than it does exhaustion like it was for Rose. Is he okay? You ask Rose. He doesn't look like it, Rose agrees quietly. Mindfang waves Dave off, tossing him a token, although it's somewhat half-hearted. Dave stumbles over to you and almost collapses down next to you. Are you all right? Rose asks him, raising a delicate eyebrow. Not in the mood, Rose, Dave mutters. Rose holds out her hands in a silent surrender and walks off, leaving you two alone. You have your suspicions that Rose knows something happened with you and Dave, but only because you suspect that Rose knows everything. It's a good starting assumption for life in general. Drink? You offer him. You've half drunk the one that Rose gave you, but he looks like he could use it. I've not been backwashing in it, or I've not been backwashing it or anything. Not that you haven't already, you stopped that before you make the mention of the concept of you and Dave trading spit already, because ew, what a gross way to put that. Thanks, Dave says shakily and accepts the drink. You seem pretty shaken up. Are you alright? You ask him worriedly. I had to face off against a giant spider woman with a sword after she'd attacked my sister, so no, Dave snaps. Sorry, you say dumbly. You obviously just put your foot in there. Dave presses his fingers to his forehead and shakes his head a little. No, don't be. Sorry, that was a dick thing to say. I don't know why, but I'm really rattled, he says shakily. Well, like you said, a giant spider woman just attacked you, and you had every reason to believe it'd go really badly. You agree? No, it's not that, Dave tells you. You wait a moment, and Dave has another sip of the drink you gave him. What is it then, if it's not that? You ask. I don't know. Just being attacked like that makes me terrified, even though technically this situation is perfectly safe. There's medical people here, she's a teacher, so she can't outright try to kill me or anything. And if it got hairy, you might have stepped in again with your magic, whatever that was. I guess I just don't deal with aggression well. I don't think I ever have, Dave says with a frown. He never has? Your mind flicks to the damage his mother caused to that book, to her sudden emotional and mental changes, the way she seemed confused sometimes and yet is still incredibly magically powerful. Oh no. Dave, you say hesitantly, has your mother ever... I mean, I know she's not herself, and it's not her fault or yours, but has she ever done anything like that to you? Dave straightens up suddenly and looks right at you in obvious shock. What? No, Mom would never hurt us. Shit, I guess it kind of sounded like I meant that, didn't it? But that's not what I meant. Mom can be distant or hurtful, but, that's emotionally, and we both know she doesn't mean it. She's never, ever hurt any of the three of us. She's chased June off before, but that's because she gets confused about who June is and thinks she's dangerous or hiding something. No, Mom's never attacked me. That's not why I'm all freaky about some big magic lady coming at me, Dave insists, and for what it's worth, he seems genuine. But there must be a reason. Okay, your mom is cool, that's good, but you seemed really upset by that thing. Or by that whole thing. I know it's none of my business and you can tell me to fuck off or whatever, but was there someone else? I mean, I presume you have a father, or did. You say as delicately as you can. I don't have a father, Dave says right away. Okay, you say. Dave pulls a face and clarifies his point. Well, I assume I do, biologically speaking and all. I joke that Mom made me and Rose in a lab, but I'm pretty sure she didn't. I'm sure there's some dude out there who's rocking some of my DNA, but we don't know shit about him, and Mom has never ever brought up whoever he is. So when I say I don't have a father, I don't mean that there's some douchebag out there that I've disowned. I mean that literally whoever out there contributed to making me and then pieced out like a total fucking deadbeat has had no impact on my life. Honestly, I'm glad. Fuck that guy. He's probably a total bastard, Dave says with a certain amount of venom. Well, that's a whole can of worms that you probably shouldn't have opened, so you're going to try to close that again for now and leave it off the side and hope that it won't mess things up for both of you. It's dumb, though. The way I feel would make more sense if I had been through something like that. It's almost like the edge of a panic attack being up there, and I've no clue why. I literally don't remember anyone ever attacking me ever. Thank fuck, right? But it's just odd, Dave muses. Dave looks pale. Well, he always looks pale. But he looks unwell and shaken right now. This is a chance for you to talk to him one-on-one for a change. You've been waiting for such an opportunity so that you can find out if you're dating or not. Somehow, though, you suspect that this isn't the time. Look, I'm literally shaking, Dave says, holding his hand out flat in front of him. Sure enough, it is trembling slightly. Yeah, this isn't the moment. Just keep drinking, you remind him, pointing to one of the sports drinks that Rose left you. Once more, movement catches your eye, and you watch Solux cut an S-path across the ground with his body as he comes up to you and Dave once more. Your snaky demon friend, seems to watch you both for a moment or two. He twists his body to look back at the group of people still waiting to test their defenses. Is something wrong? You ask Solux, leaning forward to look down at him. Solux turns back to look up at you. Maybe it's just the snake face, but he seems pretty unimpressed by your question. What is it, lassie? Did Timmy fall down a well? You ask innocently. At your side, Dave chokes a little on his drink. Solux opens his mouth and hisses at you, fangs on display, but doesn't actually go through with biting you. With his displeasure fully communicated, he returns to looking from Dave to the group and back over. You're not sure if he's trying to communicate something or not. Just when you're about to ask Solix what's going on in a less mocking way, he winds himself up Dave's leg until he's able to slide over Dave's ribs like he did before. Ugh, hey man. Dave groans and props his head up a little, resting his elbow on his knee to do it. Solix pulls away from him and gets back down to the floor, quickly heading away to the group. You'd swear he looks bigger. You'd also swear that Dave looks a little worse right now. Did Solix do something to Dave? Are you feeling a little worse? Are you feeling worse? You ask him worriedly. Just a little lightheaded, adrenaline come down or something probably, Dave mumbles. You look back to the other students and see Solix suddenly become big again in order to defend himself and pass Mindfang's tests. With every attack she flings it his way, he blocks with scales of crackling bicolored light, his body twisting over itself in knots that ought to tie him up, but never doing so. When she's done, he shrinks back down again. You frown as you watch. He's a snake right now, but because he's low in power from getting you out of Midnight City, right? So has he got the power to pull off flashy things like that? Is he taking energy or something somehow from Dave? Dave doesn't seem to have noticed it himself, if that's the case, and yet Solix is doing some pretty energetic stuff. So maybe you're wrong. Maybe Solix didn't do anything to Dave. Maybe he did take a little energy and demons are just highly efficient with it or something. This is way too much speculation. Besides, what are you going to do? Ask Solix? He can't talk, and even if he could, he doesn't tell you shit most of the time. Hey, after this, do you want to get coffee or something? I'm sure caffeine and sugar would make you feel better, you offer, trying to fix a different problem instead. That sounds, yeah, Dave nods. I'm so glad that sounds, yeah, you nod solemnly. Dave elbows you in the side for that, which is probably fair enough. The rest of your class runs through the remaining tests, some people passing well enough to make the class, but a decent number of people don't make the cut and get told to try again at a later date. Somehow you managed to make it. You managed to outperform a whole bunch of other people to make it into this class. That's crazy, especially as not long ago you didn't know you had any magical capabilities at all. Your life has really changed. Now then, Mindfang declares to the remaining class members, I will be assigning reading before each class. Background on what I intend to show you. I get bored of repeating myself over and over to people. Why are you a teacher then? Dave says under his breath. You can't help but agree. As such, a lot of the learning will be done by you in preparation. Class will mostly be practical instruction and demonstration, Mindfang explains. As irritating as her reasons are, you kind of get why she's doing it this way. If you've got limited face-to-face time with people, then dedicating that time to stuff you can only show and test in person makes sense. You may have experienced group projects in your other classes, Mindfang goes on, and you scowl at that. Solix is still not helping you with your project. However, this class will be almost entirely group assessed. Though I intend to grade you on your individual abilities as well, you will be mostly tested on how well your group works. In expeditions, witches travel in groups. Being alone is no good. You have no one to keep watch, you have too much to do alone, and that sort of complexity leads to mistakes and fatalities. That thought is kind of chilling. There are plenty of areas in the world, some patches of woodland, but some far larger expanses hundreds of miles across, that humans know better than to go alone. Not to mention the danger of sea travel without properly negotiating passage with the people that live in the waters. If it wasn't for teleportation, people would have to risk that kind of thing all the time to travel long distances. Wandering into a highly active magical area seems dangerous as hell, and you're not keen to do it. That couldn't be more clearly demonstrated than the expedition in Japan being driven to madness and cannibalism. It's not exactly great advertising, is it? Between what you already have, or what you already may know of your fellow students, what you've seen here, I suggest you group up. You have until the end of the week to submit your groups to me, and anyone not assigned to a group at that point will be assigned one by me. If that group doesn't accept you, then you will either form a new group with anyone else remaining or drop out until a later point. I am serious about this. I will send you the reading for the next class by email, and if any of the rest of you want to practice what you've already seen here today, then this room is available for that as well, Mindfang says. You're not super keen to stay here at all. Coffee, he suggests to Dave. Hell yes. Dave nods and stands up. You get up with him, ready to steady him in case he needs it, but he's pretty much fine. The rest of your group walks over together, Rose carrying Solix in her arms. When she gets to Dave, she hands the demon over, and Dave promptly puts Solix on his shoulder. Solix slips down into Dave's hood and doesn't seem to move at all. Is he just sleeping in there? Dave asks, trying to turn his head to see. You peek in yourself, and Solix doesn't seem to be moving at all, aside from softly breathing. but you have no idea how to tell if a snake is sleeping or not. You shrug a little helplessly, and Dave seems to let it go. We should all be in a group, June insists. I'm not sure how much help I'll be, you say uncertainly. Are you serious, Carcat? You're incredibly defensively powerful, even if you're not sure how you did it. A good group needs a well-rounded between defense and offense, and you're wonderfully defensive, Rose assures you. In combat. Socially, you're more offensive, Jade snickers. Har har, fuck you too, Harley, you grumble. We should all sit down and plan what we're going to do. Maybe look over what Mindfang sent us. I'm kind of excited about this, June says brightly, light dancing in her eyes as her whole face lights up with excitement. Oh, we were just going to get coffee, Dave says stupidly. Yes, drinks and cake and planning, Jade cheers. Did you see they're doing Oreo milkshakes at the coffee place, Jade? June says eagerly and links her arms with her roommate to pull her off. So glad we're all going, Rose smiles sharply. She clearly picked up on Dave's point that he had meant that to just be you and he who were going to get coffee, but apparently it's too late. Your plan has been hijacked and there's nothing you can do about it now. Dave shrugs and gives you a little embarrassed look, but it's fine. You're still happy to hang out with your friends, even if you were hoping just you and Dave would go alone. In the coffee place, you end up sat next to Jade, who leans against you and shows you the offensive spells that you're going to be taught, all laid out in neat little diagrams on her screen. June and Dave are off getting everyone's order. You hope no one's going to notice the snake that's in your hood, or that's in Dave's hood, and freak out, but you don't think to remind him after he's gone. I'm really excited to learn how to do all of this, Jade says in wonder. Me too. Is all the stuff different from the Fae things you know? The space bending stuff I saw you do was incredible, you tell her. It really was. Manipulating reality like that is just incredible and surely very high-level stuff. What would you expect, though? She's Fae, and they're really powerful. Oh, thanks, Jade says brightly. The smile doesn't quite reach her eyes. You guess that she notices that you're not convinced by her cheer and sighs softly. Well, it's not the only Fae magic I know is stuff I know instinctively. I was never taught anything else. I've never seen another Fae until coming here and passing a few people in the hallway. I'm a changeling, so... Jade shrugs. Oh shit. Changelings are Fae children swapped for human children. The human children are taken back with the Fae, and the Fae child is left behind with the humans. It's effectively abandonment. You managed to bring that up for her. I shouldn't have brought that up. Wow, fuck, I'm so great at talking to people. The literal best at it. Someone needs to lock me away so I never speak to people again. Holy shit, you groan, covering your face with your hands. Your histrionics are always so funny, or histrionics. Your histrionics are always so funny to me, Carcat. It's fine, it's just a Fae thing, you know? Anyway, that's the reason I'm excited to be actually taught combat stuff like this instead of figuring it out myself. My grandpa never really taught me anything about magic. If anything, he spent his time making notes on what I worked out, Jade laughs. I don't have... How dare you? You huff and slide lower in your seat. That is probably not helping your case, Carcat, Rose says with a smile. She's balancing one of her needles on its tip on the table, just supporting it ever so slightly with a fingernail on the other end. Hey, Rose, can I ask about those things? Are they magic wands or whatever? You ask her curiously. You've seen stuff like that on the TV, but not in real life. There's no such thing as magic wands, honestly, Rose says, rolling her eyes. Behind her, Dave comes up with the drinks in hand, and as June balances a tray with a plate on it. Oh no, not the magic wand debate again. I'm not participating in this. I'm not here, Dave groans and starts handing out drinks. Debate? Jade asks curiously. There's no such thing as a magic wand. There's nothing more magical about these needles than any other knitting needles out there. As cool as they look, June gave them to me, and it just happens that using them to point helps me focus more aggressive magic that requires a directional element. They are not inherently magic, ergo, they are not magic wands, Rose insists. You use them to cast magic. There are magic wands, or at very least magic needles, Dave argues. Oh, but you cast magic with your hands. Are those your magic hands? Rose counters immediately. I thought you weren't having this argument, June says, but is ignored anyway. Yes, they are. Everyone says so, Dave tells her. Oh, please. The only one who's benefited from your magic hands is you, Rose tells him snidely. Well, that's an image you didn't need in your head. Certainly not with other people around. Cool. If we can not allude to Dave jerking it when I'm handing out food, that'd be great, June says loudly and shoves a toasted sandwich in your direction. Dave grumbles and sits down, but it seems that her intervention has successfully put the brakes on what you assume is a repeated argument between Rose and Dave. How long do you think it'll be until we're allowed to go together as a group, like exploring together? June asks, and she sits down and changes the topic back to your previous class. A while, I'd hoped. I don't want to go out there unprepared, you point out. You also don't want to end up on some headline. Psh, you'll be fine. I hope we can get to train together as a group, though. We could form some specialized plays and maneuvers like sports teams do, all working together like a machine, June says eagerly, despite being pretty blasé about the possibility of you dying or being hurt. I would assume we're meant to stick together in the same group, so I guess so, you concede. Besides, Solix is in our group and he's immortal. We'll be fine, and all of us have passed no problem, Jade agrees. You really don't rate your offensive capabilities, and you think you might have to go out of your way to rent a practice room soon to try to get a head start on that. You don't want to let your friends down. Still, you have other demands on your time. Returning to work is a little unnerving, but Miss Paint really was fine with you not being there. Kanaya was understandably concerned, but she listens attentively as you tell her everything that happened. And he just burnt your notebook like that, Kanaya asks when you tell her about Solux. Yeah, you say unhappily. Do you think you could recognize the language if you saw it again? Kanaya says thoughtfully. You spent a while copying it down. Reversed or not, you could pick it out. Yeah, I think so, you nod. Then come with me. Kanaya smiles sneakily and gets up. She flips the sign on the office door and leads you down to the lowest levels of the library. The book she picks out is not restricted, but one in need of restoration. It's a large book, about as big as your chest, and it has pages sewn into it from clearly quite disparate sources. Some of the language for rather minor deities corrupted during the event, so we've been trying to restore this edition. It has all the examples of magical languages that we've ever found. Not all of them have been identified still, but have a look. Kanaya suggests. Carefully you open the book up. It's easy to flip through the human magical languages, and the Fey ones are pretty to look at, but not what you're looking for. The aquatic languages are interesting as well, but also not what you're looking for. One page makes you pause. Ah, yes, see, this is one of the unidentified languages. Let's see. Kanaya murmurs and leans over your shoulder. Found on several stone tablets, it seems to be part mathematical and part language. A few other fragments have been identified, but not enough to work out any kind of translation, she explains, gesturing to photographs and rubbings of the fragments that remain. Your eyes catch on one word. Forbidden, you read, your tongue shaping around the word without a second thought. You jump when something across the room bangs loudly. You whip around to see a book in the highly dangerous fenced-off section has thrown itself at the wired cage and seems to be trying to get to you. Whatever you just said pissed it off badly. Did you just read that? Kanaya asks in shock. I think so. Just that one word. The rest is just fragments of the word, I think. I don't know how I know what it said, though. I just did, you tell her. Your eyes still glued to the book that has now sunk to the floor and slid under a shelf menacingly. You close your eyes and sigh, just what you need, yet more mystical and unexplained bullshit on top of everything else in your life. You came to this place to learn, and you get more answers, but so far you've come up with more questions than answers. It feels like you know less now than you used to. Let me guess, you say warily. There's no leads as to where this language that I apparently know a word is from, or what species it comes from at all. I'm afraid not. I would say that it seems like quite an old language, chronologically speaking, but that doesn't really narrow much down, and even if it did, just because part of you remembers how to speak this language doesn't mean that you are the species that it belongs to. I know how to speak French, but I am certainly not French, so people didn't seem to forget languages in the event, so you may have known this and just not been aware of it. It doesn't really offer a clue as to your species, I'm afraid, Kanaya admits. Fucking fantastic. Let's keep looking, you grumble, and keep flipping through the pages. Your finger's still on a page when your eyes catch on a certain script. It's sharp and pointed. Every letter looks like it's been chiseled into the page somehow. This looks like just what you saw in yourself. This is it, you whisper. That's demonic. You're sure this was the language that was on you? She asks. I'm absolutely certain. It's just like this, you say, and lift your arm up and think of the deal until it glows softly on your skin. It's the same script for sure. Then whatever this spell was that you saw in your body, it was done with demonic magic. I suppose that makes sense, given how demons are the only species that have perfect recall of the things before the event and of the event itself. But I never thought that they were responsible, she says. It's not a view everyone shares. More than a fair few people blame It's not a view everyone shares. More than a fair few people blame demons. I don't see why it would be demons in general, but someone who spoke their language, or saw it as the most useful to do whatever that spell is. We already know magical languages selectively to cast magic depending on what we want to do. This could be more of the same, you reason. Kanaya frowns and turns so that she's half leaning and half ever so slightly perched on the edge of the table. So that leaves two options. Either whoever put the spell on you, and presumably everyone, if what the woman in Midnight City said to you is true, was a native speaker of demonic, and just cast the spell in their native language because it's easier to work with in your native language, or it's a spell that demonic and Ath lends itself especially well to, and could be cast by anyone fluent in it, Kanaya says. So how many people are fully fluent in demonic but aren't demons, you ask, fearing you already know the answer. Shockingly, demons are cagey about sharing knowledge, so very few people are fluent in the language. You've already met the world expert on all things demonic, or should I say, the human world expert in it, Kanaya tells you. You somehow suspect that Roxy Lalonde is not going to be helpful to you here. If you had the spell written out, you could perhaps have shown it to her, but you're not sure you want to stress her out with something like that when there's no reason to. It was already more than generous of her to sacrifice her time and energy to bring you back to this plane of reality. As much as you want this spell off, and you know your past, to know your past, it seems irresponsible to tax her mind on something that isn't life or death. Besides, the way she was talking at times made you wonder if she wasn't already at least partly aware of the spell, and maybe even the event. At the very least, I know it wasn't Solux, but I don't know who would have that power to cast a spell like this on the whole world, you say. People have theorized that the event was caused by the gods themselves, a last mysterious act before they left. But if that's the case, then the spell being written in demonic casts uncomfortable implications, Kanai says with a wince. Yeah, let's not go there. There's probably some way for people who aren't gods to have done this. Some bullshit combination of the right people on some cosmically aligned date with the right blah blah blah, some shit like that, you know? You say, you don't want to think of the alternative. Perhaps. Kanaya nods and picks up the book, returning it to the shelf. You know, I'm deeply invested in seeing any essays that you write if this is how you explain things, she adds with a sly grin. I'll be sure to show you all of them. Should we check out whatever was throwing a hissy fit in the cage? You ask, gesturing to the restricted cage. We shall do no such thing. I will have a look, although Miss Paint did mention that she's going to be tutoring you on more magic for the library. Have you had any lessons with her yet? Kanai asks, and lets herself through the first cage door and locks them behind her. No, not yet. I've had a lot of work to catch up on after being in another dimension for a few days. I didn't really want to explain any of it to my teachers. I know it's a step up from my dog ate my homework, but yeah, no. She said she'd be teaching me finding spell first, though. That sounds useful, you say. Kanaya lets herself into the restricted cage and nods. It is very useful. However, it does mean that seeing books out of place will forever bug you, and your own book collection will henceforth be obsessively organized, she says somewhat distractedly as she looks over the shelves. You keep quiet now. You don't want to distract her in there. Instead, you just watch as she crouches down and fishes a thin, plain brown book off of the floor under the shelves. Was this the book that flew at the cage, or did it get knocked off? This was never shown a hint of animation or trouble before, she says as she turns it over in her hands. Why is it in there, you ask? I don't know at the top of my head. It doesn't even have a visible title or author. Its appearance tends to... Look, Kanaya flaps the book in her hand. It's not a hardcover like you would have expected, but soft and flexible. And as you look at it, the appearance of it glitches slightly in a way that reminds you of Dave's terrible skateboard. That makes me feel sick to look at, you grimace. Quite. Back you go, Kanaya tells it and slides it back into the place on the shelf. She unlocks the door, slips out, relocks it, and then does the same with the final door. I want to know what that book was. I need to note any unusual behavior. I'm not sure it was the book that threw itself at the cage or not, but there wasn't any out of place. Not that a book couldn't have reshelved itself if it wanted to, of course. Kanai explains and starts flicking through a book on a podium by the cage. You think that book's some kind of fall book for some other book? You ask her. There's a bonker sentence that you just said, yet a perfectly reasonable one in your current job. Yes, look, this book has never shown any mobility at all. Its contents are unreadable, and its appearance is changeable, all very benign, Kanaya says, tapping her fingers on a listing for the book in question. You can see a space under the book's information for incidents, but it's all blank. In fact, most of it looks blank. There's no country or origin or era listed. Literally, the only interesting information is speculation that its pages seem fire retardant. Why is it in there, you ask? Code 413. That's... Kanaya scrunches her eyes shut and frowns as if she's trying to remember something for a test. I think a prophecy. We have a different book for that upstairs. This isn't really work you should be doing, but it is book-related mystery, and you're sure that Miss Paint would understand and encourage a diversion of book-related curiosity. Kanaya leads you up a floor into the back office and pulls out what more accurately is a scrapbook than an actual book. The pages inside are notes written down and stuck in. A few solid pages are written by one person, and then it's back to other people. What is this, you ask? It's a book of prophecies by seers over the years, about the university and the library as well. We flagged the ones obviously to do with us, and here, Kanaya pauses on the page. My dragon seer said this book would lead to great mind-running evil and someone being drowned in a bath or something. It was unclear. No one can read it anyway, so lock that sucker up in bookshelf. RL. The fuck? You ask, quite reasonably. That's a note from Dr. Lalonde. I don't know what she means by a dragon seer. I assume that's a title. Still, that makes sense. If the book isn't usable anyway, it's indicated to be involved in some dangerous prophecy, then it would make sense to lock it up to prevent that. Kanaya explains. Okay, here's a thing I've never understood. If a seer sees that something is going to happen, can they actually do anything to change it? Because if they can, aren't they wrong? Do they only see inevitable shit, or is it just things that can happen, or what? Doesn't seeing it at all change things? You ask. You could probably ask Rose about this, but that seems tactless to demand an explanation on the things she can no longer do. There's a whole study of fields about that. The nature of timelines and prophecies and whatnot. I took a course on it for a semester and promptly dropped it because all the paradox stuff made my head hurt. Either way, the book is locked up down there, and it's probably going to stay there. And I don't mind because it's never tried to take a chunk out of me. Kanai says as if that's that. Fair enough, you nod. The two of you go back to the office via the other drop boxes and get back to doing your actual work, hushing a few students on the way there. When you're in the safety of your office and can talk again without being hypocritical, Kanaya asks you another question. So, how goes your obvious crush? She asks. You never even told her about that. She just worked it out. The girl can sniff out drama and emotional intrigue like a bloodhound. Wait, is that an offensive thing to call her? Probably. Shit. Still, you won't get out of this by dodging the question, so your best option here is to roll over and tell her what she wants to know. We might be dating now, or not. I don't know, you say and frown at the book. Kanaya looks up at you over the edge of the book, or at the edge of a book trolley. Her gaze is incredibly judgmental. Please, do tell me the reason you're not sure. I'm positive that is wildly absurd, she says. We kissed, but we didn't get to talk about it because we got interrupted. We've not really had a chance since then, so I don't know, you admit. I was under the impression that you quote-unquote millennials were all on your phones these days, she says flatly. Oh, yeah, it's all charging our phones, being bisexual, eating hot chip, and lie. No, Kanaya, I don't want to just text him and ask. I want to be there and see some romance, not just idiocy, you say as you try to explain. You just want this to be meaningful, not some casual thing negotiated through messages. Is that too much to ask? And yet idiocy is what I see here. This is only going to get more idiotic the longer you leave this, you know. This is not how you play gay chicken. You're doing it wrong, you say. You roll your eyes so hard you think you might have sprained something. I know, okay? I'm gonna have a mature and adult conversation with him about this when I can. I'd like for it to just be the two of us, since Solix is a snake, and Dave's wearing him like the world's worst necktie all the time at the moment. It's kind of hard to do that. Hopefully when Solix has legs again, I can ask Dave out properly. You insist. You have the most interesting, weirdest, and dumbest social life of anyone I've ever known. And I've been around a very long time, so that's saying something. Kanaya sighs and returns to shelving books. Well, at least you excel at something. Okay, now that we're a little bit more than halfway, I gotta take one. little break and I read chat and catch up. Because I haven't been reading chat. Well, I have been. I hope you know that you're awesome, and I kind of love your voice, so it's so calming. Keep up what you're doing, it's great. Oh, thank you, soy sauce. Appreciate you. Okay, one more drink. This is a fucking hefty chapter. We are only halfway, and we are an hour in. So, well, we're a little bit more than halfway. But yeah, this is a fucking long little guy. All right. Okay. All right. As it happens, Solix doesn't seem to be turning back into his usual bipedal self anytime soon. He's just getting bigger each time you see him. You can very charitably say that he's attending your basic groups meetings, but given that he can't talk, he's been fuck all help. Dave is in no hurry to put Solix down, so he can slither about on his own or hand him off to other people, so you can't catch him alone. If anything, Dave is relishing being able to walk around with a giant snake around his neck and shoulders, all the while interacting with people as if everything is normal, and almost daring them to say anything about it. You're certain Solix finds this just as amusing, this shitlord. June, of course, is no help because she's into any and all pranks, and this is deeply funny to her. Rose is suspiciously oblivious about all this in a way that tells you she knows everything and is also having a laugh at your expense. Jade would probably play wingman for you, but you don't have the guts to ask her, and you're also wallowing in your own stupidity. Isn't he heavy or something? You ask, pointing your pen at Solix, who is at least 5 foot long now, with a head bigger than your fist. Nah, he does that thing where he doesn't weigh much at all, Dave answers with a shrug as he stares down at his e-reader with the books that Mindfang sent out. Class starts in a few minutes, and you all want to be prepared. I legit thought this was 2 chapters. Yeah, it's fucking big. It's like, oh my god, it's beefy. And yet again, Carcat and Dave fail to talk to each other. See, when I hate miscommunication in fics, but this doesn't feel like miscommunication. This like miscommunication as a trope is shitty in fics. This isn't miscommunication though. This is like I guess it is miscommunication at some points, but this is like funny to me. Like this is the good type of if you're gonna write miscommunication, I want it to be 2 idiots. The last few chapters have been slowly getting longer. Yeah, I'm kind of worried about future chapters. I don't know how much they ramp up. I'm not actually worried. It's fine. It's not miscommunication. It's just Carcat being dumb. This isn't miscommunication. This is not communication. Yeah. I guess you could argue that the Justin Timberlake thing was miscommunication, but it's not like a weird bad miscommunication. They just failed to find the right time. Yeah. I get what you mean, Celeste. He can't miscommunicate. He's just not communicating at all. Yeah. Okay. You remember Solix pulling that magical trick before on the night where you all stayed in his room? Solix lifts his head up from Dave's shoulders and stares at you, unblinking. You stick your tongue out at him, and he does the same in return. That's about the limits of your conversational ability with demons right now. It's not miscommunication that leads to angst, it's just silly. Yeah, I think when miscommunication leads to angsty stuff, that's when I'm like, I don't really like this, because it feels like the drama isn't earned because they're just 2 people being stupid. But this is like, they're just being silly. They just be little silly dumb guys. Like who's gonna come? I like when they be silly. It's cute. Okay. Magical attacks can be done either barehanded or through a weapon of some kind. The weapon needed to make contact, and for this test they must not, but they can serve as a focus for unleashing a basic force attack, which is what you'll be doing today. Excuse me. Mindfang declares without any preamble as she scuttles into the room. Everyone first will line up and attempt a barehanded force attack on the target wall. If that fails after a few rounds, you may select a weapon or continue trying barehanded. Go, she says, waving a hand. She's certainly not one for pleasantries. You've read the text before this, but you're still not sure you're able to do this. This isn't like the strictly formulated magic that you've done in your other spellcasting classes. This is basic instinctive magic. You have to find your own magical source within yourself and use that. You know where your magical source is within you about as well as you know where your gallbladder is. You've presumably got one, but you don't know where it is, or really have any proof that it's ever done much in your life at all. The class lines up. You're between Dave, with Solix on his shoulders, and on your right, and Jade on your left. You follow the directions. Stand with the foot of your non-dominant side first, in this case your left, and keep your dominant hand and foot slightly back. It looks like something in a martial arts class. Because Dave is left-handed, you're directly facing him. At least, he's focusing ahead of himself, but Solix is staring straight at you. You don't know if he's been staring more lately or if him just being a snake makes it more unsettling than usual. The feeling of magic itself is so fleeting that it's hard to grasp, and your first attempt to cast Force Attack does absolutely nothing. You dig inside yourself and, once again, find nothing. Your hand lowers and your eyes shift to Dave. He's looking forward so you can see the way his eyebrows pull lower in concentration, the hint of his red eyes exposed by the open sides of his sunglasses. He pulls his hand back, turning it from an open palm to an almost claw-like shape, and between his fingers, the world seems to stutter. The air feels odd, and it takes on a texture that you can only describe as feeling like the sound of a record makes when you pull the needle away. Dave's hand strikes forward, and bright red shoots forth, making his target fly apart. I don't think I can do that, you say softly. Don't think that. You've already shown off that you can do this stuff. Just give another try, Dave suggests. His reassurances sound genuine. He's being nice and he has confidence in you. This just feels wrong, like you know that you can't do it. All the same, you try again. You breathe, you go through the movements, but there's no new result. Solix is hanging off Dave's shoulder, a thick and looped weight, but you watch as he uncoils himself and balances on Dave's right shoulder for a moment before he's stretching out towards you. Halfway there, Dave lifts his hand up to provide support, and Solix swiftly moves from Dave's shoulders to yours. What do you want? You yelp as Solix loops himself around your shoulders. Solix slips down your chest and bends his body so he's looking right at you in the face. All the while, the rest of his body is still moving. You only realize how tight he's getting around your neck when it's too late. He's not choking you, but the threat is there. Solix jerks his head off to the side, and you've no idea what that means. The demon shakes his head and moves forward, sliding over your shoulder and wrapping down your arm. He's like an anaconda at this size, and his body is far stronger than your arm. So when he pulls, your arm raises up away from the targets without your permission. The fuck? You yelp. Dave says in agreement. Solix's head is at your wrist now, and he pointedly looks to the other side of the room and then back at you again and back away again. I think he wants you to go over there, Dave guesses, and Solix bobs his snaky head in a nod. Well, he can go himself if he wants to go. Ah! A coil of snake tightens around your throat, cutting your words off. Solix, stop strangling him, man, Dave sighs. He's taking this far too casually. Obligingly, Solix's tail loosens enough so you can breathe, but it's still tight and his glowing eyes hold no mercy. You're the worst, you remind him, and Solix jerks his head again so you can go the way he's leading you. You're pretty sure you look dumb as fuck, being led around by the arm of a giant snake, but this is your life now. You, for one, resent your serpentine overlord. Solix moves your arm like a compass needle, directing you over to the wall that's covered in weapons. When you get there, he jerks your arm off to the side, so you go that way until he has you stop, and then he lifts your arm up until it grazes the hilt of a weapon. It's a sickle. You're not sure exactly where that tidbit of information came, but you know it. You twist the weapon around in your hand, practiced and familiar despite you never remembering touching one in your life at all. You want to ask what's going on, how you know this. Solix can't answer you now, but he led you here. He's not telling you things, he's not allowed to do this, but this seems very much like him deliberately directing you to things where you'll discover something on your own. He wants you to remember, doesn't he? The target range is calling you, and Dave is watching you return. As you walk, you flip the sickle around in your hand. The familiarity itches at you. Literally, it's itching. Your skin feels prickly and wrong. You scratch at your face, trying to chase the phantom irritant away. Suddenly you feel it, like getting your fingernail between the screen protector and your phone, and something suddenly floods back. A range, much like this one. It could be this one. A weapon the same kind, heavy in your hand, and reluctance deep in your heart. It's a test, and one you know you have to pass, but suddenly you don't have the stomach for it. But why do I even have to attack anyone at all? Wasn't the whole point of reasoning with people, being empathetic and seeing things their way to avoid fighting people? Yes, but sometimes you have to. Sometimes you need to, because that's what you've been told to do. It's your duty, Carcat. So stop wasting your time and mine and prove to me that you can. You didn't need to make them look like real people. Why shouldn't they? You need to be able to face the gravity of what you will have to do. Distancing yourself from reality of the situation will only make this harder for you in the long run, or God forbid, make you fail when confronted with the reality of the situation. But that was an order, Carcat. You drop the sickle. You didn't in the memory, and even now you have a lingering sensation of blood. You don't want to do that again. You jerk your hand away from your face and the memory recedes. Karkat, are you okay? Dave asks worriedly. Solux's tail curls up around your face and nudges at your cheek where you'd been scratching before that memory came back. I don't know, you say hoarsely. Mindfang scuttles past you on her unnerving spider legs and judgmentally looks at you looks at your perfectly untouched target. Disappointing, she comments in a way that's far too similar to the person from your memories. You make some excuse, you don't remember exactly what, and leave the classroom. You find a bench somewhere outside, sit down and lean forward on it, your hands tightly gripping the edges as you try to remember to breathe. It's only when Solux slides off your shoulders and into your lap do you realize that you accidentally abducted him. Sorry, I didn't mean to, you say a little breathlessly. You can't even get to the end of the sentence before you have to close your eyes and try to keep yourself together. You've wanted for so long to get your memories back, and you're sure that's exactly what that was. Fractured, with parts missing. Sure, but a memory nonetheless. It wasn't a good memory, and right now you wish you could forget it. You feel like even before the event took your memories, you probably had tried to keep this one out of your head. Solux nudges his head against your chest through the hoodie, right above the mark on your chest that's shown up, the one you've never shown him, and he shouldn't know is there. It feels like you can breathe a little again. There he is. Opening your eyes, you look around to see your friends hurrying over to you. What? Why'd you go, Karkat? Jade asks first. It looks a little like you're going to hurl, dude. Dave asks. Gee, thanks, Dave. I think I remembered something, you tell them hesitantly. Wait, what? What do you mean you remembered something? June asks quickly, her eyes wide behind her square glasses. How about you tell us everything, starting from the beginning, Rose suggests, sensible as ever as she sits down on the bench next to you. You nod mutely for a moment and watch as Rose takes a chance to boop Solux's snout with the tip of her finger, making him shake his head to get rid of her. Solux took me over to the weapons and I picked up a sickle. Somehow I knew how to use it even though I don't remember ever touching one, and I went back to the targets and... You pause. Your hands weren't gripping the edges of your bench by your knees so hard they'd be shaking right now. Or if your hands weren't gripping the edges of the bench. Okay. I remembered this conversation with someone, a man, I think, older than me. I think his eyes were red and, I don't know, it's all fractured. He was telling me I needed to attack some targets, like in class. I guess that's why I remembered it. And somehow he made them real people? I don't know. Magic or something. There was blood. He made me do it somehow, you say shakily. I mean, you don't know what that was. It being all incomplete like that. It could be some magic runoff from something or some bad juju that Mindfang was putting out to test us all or something like that. People don't get memories back from the event, June reasons. It sounds quite traumatic. Traumatic, whatever it was. Rose says, No, wait, what happened in this memory? You said he made you attack these people? What happened? Jade presses you. Bile rises in your throat as flashes of blood flicker behind your eyes. He just ordered me. I had to. Physically had to. It was some... What? You pause as Solux's head jerks up. Solux, do you know something? Rose asks him, and Solux just sort of squirms about in your lap, as if he can't communicate right now. You suppose he can't. It's not like he can talk, June points out. Well, he can if you ask things in a binary way. Kind of hard for this sort of topic, though, Dave says. Perhaps I have a solution. Solux, come here, please, Rose says and holds out her arms. Solux slithers off your lap into her waiting arms. Rose kneels down on the stone paving and places Solux on the floor in a loose coil. You can still read in this form, yes? Rose asks, and Solux bobs his head in a yes motion. Excellent. Then perhaps Rose trails off and pulls a chalk pen from her bag. On the floor around Solux, she starts to write. Yes, no, maybe, I don't know, good, bad. Solux looks around as she writes, taking in the options. That ought to give us a few more options between your tail and your nose. You should be able to indicate whatever you need to. Rose says, Well, wait, is there even any point in this? There's so much shit that Solux can't talk about, right? Jin interrupts. A fair point. Rose nods and makes an X on the floor. If you cannot tell us the answer, indicate here, Rose says, tapping the X. So where do we start then? Not that I'm not down for Snake Ouija in the first place, but do we have a plan or what have you? Dave asks, leaning back over the bench near your shoulders so he can see. Solux, I'm aware that it seemed like you weren't present in this memory, so I wouldn't expect you to know for sure. But setting that aside, do you think that what Kark had experienced was in fact a memory? Rose asks, wordy as always. Solux nudges his nose to yes. Did I scratch that spell somehow and do something to it? You guess. Solix seems to hesitate and points his nose to yes again, but his tail taps, I don't know. So he doesn't know for sure. Oh, so he doesn't know for sure, but thinks that's probably it. Rose concludes. Would something bad happen if he did it again? June asks. Solix hesitates, at first selecting I don't know, but then shifting to yes. I can't say it felt great at the time, you admit. Do you know the person in Karkat's memory? Jade asks. Solix tilts his head. Maybe. Allow me to clarify. Do you know who the person in Karkat's memory is? Rose asks. Yes. Do you know him personally? You ask. No. So something in what Karkat said was descriptive enough to tip Solix off, which wasn't a lot, unless Karkat's giving off magical vibes that Solix was picking up when he was doing that whole remembering thing. Not that that'd surprise me because magic, am I right? Dave rambles. You seem to react to him being ordered to attack. Was that what tipped you off? Rose asks. Solix freezes and smacks his tail sharply against the X on the ground. He can't say. But it's not like Karkat is compelled to do what other people order him to. Maybe this person had some special power or something, like mind control, Jade wonders. Why would that be a secret, though? Dave frowns. Well, no, that's probably irrelevant. Rose cuts herself off, and Solix looks sharply at her, as if asking her to go on. I just remember something that Mother once told me about demons and deals, about how if one actually breaks it, then you can go on to tell them to their maker, or go on to tell their maker. Demons are physically incapable of disobeying direct and real orders from their maker, but Karkat obviously isn't a demon, so that's a pointless line of conjecture. I don't know why it came to mind, Rose explains. Solix just stares, unblinking at her. I already asked him if I was part human, part something else, and he told me for free that I'm not part demon, you offer. Unless... Solix, is Karkat the weirdest looking, softest demon ever? Dave gasps. Solix doesn't even answer off this time, or doesn't even pick an answer off the ground this time. He just smacks his face with his own tail. Impressive. Dave made a creature without palms find a way to facepalm. Whoa, are we just blowing by how demons can order their kids around like that? That's kind of messed up. Solix, is your maker alive? Could whoever do that to you, whoever it is do that to you? Jade asks in concern. Solix slowly picks yes, but he seems a little thrown by the question. Oh man, if I ever see your maker and they start making you do things you don't want to do, I'll fight them for you, Jade vows earnestly, and Solix buries his face in the coils of his body like he's embarrassed. I mean, maybe don't do that, June laughs. Yeah, you don't like seeing her fight a demon either, especially one more powerful than Solix. Alright, serious question. Is Karkat in danger from this person in his memories? Rose asks. Solix pulls his head out of his body and touches his tail to I don't know. That's fair. You can't ask him to see the future, you nod. Let me rephrase. From what you know of this person, do you think they'd have any reason to want to hurt Karkat? Rose tries. Solix hesitates and picks maybe, but he doesn't seem entirely satisfied with that answer. Oh, good, great, reassuring, you whine. Alright, let me cut in. Solix, if this person showed up tomorrow, hunting Karkat down, would you be super shocked about it? Dave asks. Solix picks yes to that with no hesitation. So it's possible, but hell unlikely. You can probably relax, Dave nods. Are they a bad person then? I mean, obviously we don't like it if this person would attack Karkat, but are they generally a bad person? Jade asks. Solix turns his body to look at the good and bad options on the ground, but seems lost. We already covered that Solix doesn't know this person personally, just knows who they are. It's probably a lot to ask him to make a binary choice on the moral character based on that. Also, you're asking a demon for a moral judgment, and is he meant to give a demon judgment, a human one, or a fey one? I think that's too complex, Rose reasons. It's certainly complex enough that it took her ages to get through explaining why it's complex. Alright, would you recognize this person if you saw them? Jade tries again. Maybe. I'm less reassured by the moment. You whine. You look down at Solix on the floor, and a question bubbles in your mind. You picked the sickle for me. Were you trying to get me to remember that? You ask. No. Were you trying to get me to remember something else? You try again. Solix ducks his head, not looking at anyone. Maybe. You're pretty sure that he's lying there. That should be a yes. But you're not using a deal question to compel him to the truth. You're just relying on his honesty. How did you know to pick the sickle? You ask. Dude, he can't answer with those questions, or he can't answer with those answers. Try again, Dave reminds you. Right, shit. Have you seen me use those before? You ask. Solix moves, then freezes. He tries to move again, and a ripple of yellow and black fire flickers over him. Hellfire, that's a warning. Soluk slumps a little and points to the X and said, instead, he can't tell you that. And we're done. I'm pretty sure that it's not fun for Soluk, so Snake Ouija is done for now, Dave says. He walks around the bench and scoops Solux up off the ground and holds him to his chest. Solux winds himself around Dave's torso and rests his head on Dave's shoulders. Thanks for the help, at least. Sorry I made a scene again, you groan and rub your face. You can't feel the spell across it anymore, but knowing that you could interact with it makes you feel a little wary of doing so accidentally. Hey, no, it's not like that, Jin says gently and rubs your back. I think I'm just gonna go back to my room. Sorry. You apologize and quickly head off. There's too much going on in your head to deal with people right now. When you get into your room and shut your bedroom door and fall face down in your bed, you really don't want company right now. You try to examine your thoughts and that memory. You can't put the face together, but you're not sure that it's because of your memory being corrupted or anything. Once you know what people look like, it isn't as if you studied their face at all times. Not unless it's Dave and you're in a flutter about how much you like him. Rather, you remember what expression someone was making. You remember the arrogance on the man's face, the familiar condescension, the irritation, and the stern order at the end. It's the feeling you can recall, not the way that his face looked exactly. What color was his skin? What did his face look like? His hair? None of that. You just remember that he was lecturing you. And he didn't approve of what you had to say, or what you thought one bit. Just thinking about it makes you feel about an inch tall. Mindfang's disapproval earlier must have just added to that. You wonder how Solux knows about that man, though. Did you tell him before all this when you were younger? Did you tell him what happened? That night you miss dinner like a coward, and you just make yourself toast when Rose is out eating with the others. You just feel too much like a raw nerve to be near anyone right now. The very most you can tolerate is one simple text-based message with Dave. Hey man, our presentation is tomorrow, so do you, want to come to mine first thing instead of going out to breakfast and we can all go over it all. Solux is still a snake right now, so I don't know how helpful he's going to be in the presentation itself. Yeah, sure. See you in the morning. Wait, shit, you could have asked about whether you're dating or not. Text be damned. Oh, fuck. Maybe later then. You drop your phone off to the side of your bed and go to sleep instead of thinking more on it. In the morning, when Dave lets you into his dorm room, you spot the ferret hammocks for Moron seems to be occupied by something reasonably big and weighty. Oh yeah, he's real big now. I figure he's getting to a certain size before he spends energy to switch forms or something, Dave says, noticing the direction you're looking. I bet he's just holding out, so we have to do the work for him instead. So you say, yeah. Solux's head appears over the edge of the hammock. He flicks his tongue at you and ducks back in. Nah, man, then he missed the chance to show off how smart he is, Dave says, and then coughs into his sleeve. Are you okay? You ask him worriedly. You check to see if he looked pale or anything, but with Dave, you just can't tell. I'm fine. I think I just, okay, have you ever woken up in the morning with your mouth open, and you know you've been like that for hours, so your throat is like sandpaper until noon or some shit? Yeah, I think that happened to me, Dave explains and shuts the door behind you. That's rough, you tell him consolingly. I know, right? Poor me. Dave sighs and leads you over to his coffee table. Unless this is some ploy to get me to do all the talking in the presentation today, in which case, fuck you, you add. As if you don't talk all the time anyway, Dave retorts. You're just as bad, you counter. It's true, too. Ooh, stalemate. Come on, look at my stuff, Dave says and hands you his laptop. The damn thing is covered in ironic stickers, and you hate him instantly. But then, of course, he has bad taste. He kissed you, didn't he? Dave was the one putting the presentation together for your group, and once you get past the horrendous overuse of clip art and screen transitions, seriously, a star wipe, it's actually a really good presentation. He's neatly added in all your mutual work and the notes that you'd lent him. You want to ask him if he acts like he doesn't care that much about his grades and about this presentation to diffuse questions about how smart he really is, to play off comparisons to his mother or his sister. That'd probably be too personal, besides you're pretty sure you know the answer already. This is really good, you tell him instead, and smile at him. You think so? Solux helped too, but it's hard to get him to get more than a positive and negative response when I was reading it out to him. He can't talk or really type like this, poor guy. Dave sighs. He reaches his hand up, and Solux leans down to nudge his now quite large snake face against Dave's hand. Oh, I meant to ask you about the... Dave breaks off into a string of coughs and shakes himself off. Yeah, I'm reading this out, you tell him. I can do it, Dave insists, his voice croaky. Nope. what were you going to say before you started hacking up a lung? You ask him flatly. You're not taking a debate on this topic right now. I was going to ask you to double check the spell work so we don't run into a bad ID spell and get it saying cylinder at us again, Dave says. I can do that, you say with a nod and slouch down on the sofa to read it over. Movement out of the corner of your eye makes you jump. A reaction fully justified as Solix uncoils himself from the hammock so he can lean down and read over your shoulder. You already saw that his head was bigger than Dave's palm. His body is so wide around that he's easily thicker than your thigh, nearly as much as both of yours added. Despite the way that he's hanging down from above, there's clearly a lot more snake up there still. Fuck me, you're big, you yelp in alarm, only processing the way that sounded when Dave lapses into laughing and coughing fit combined. Not what shut up, you insist, kicking Dave in the leg and shoving Solix away by the face. For what it's worth, the spell is fine. You'd know because you checked it over twice to give yourself some distraction about how red your cheeks have gotten. You've also have the excuse of a pre-class library shift to go that gets you out of the awkwardness just perfectly, though Dave's still grinning at you when you flee the scene. You think you injured yourself on that Freudian slip. But the time class rolls around, Dave sounds even rougher than before, and you almost think that given his size now, Solix should carry Dave to class and return the favor that Dave has been doing for him lately. Alas, he does not, instead just slithers along the ground after you and Dave on the way to class, no doubt terrifying several students on the way. Giving your presentation is a little nerve-wracking. You're trying not to accidentally yell the faces off the front row, but it's not as if you can have Dave or Solix do it. One can't speak right now, and one probably shouldn't. When it gets to the point where you have to show that your spell works, Dave casts it, and to your delight, it correctly identifies the shape of the item when you toss in it, and the one afterwards, too. You think describing exactly how you worked out the problem is going to give you greater marks because it shows what you understood. It doesn't surprise you that the girl's presentation is way better and doesn't have the tacky screen transitions and clip art, but what can you do? Apparently, what you can do is lose to the girls and definitely decide that it's boys, not girls, who have cuties, according to June. That's horseshit, you inform her. I think I read a scientific study on cooties once, and how boys definitely have it, and not girls. I'm sorry, Carcat. You have cute cooties. Jade agrees. You can't argue with science, Rose adds with a solemn nod. Are you all 5 or something? You demand, but get only sly and smug girly giggling in response. You're not going to win this one, Dave sighs. He's looking pretty clammy and unwell now, and Solix keeps giving him worried glances. Anyways, it's Halloween in 2 days. We should absolutely have the Halloween party! We should absolutely have a dorm building party. I'm all about parties, June exclaims brightly. I'm surprised that one hasn't been organized already. Perhaps we can encourage other people in our building to help us organize one. Rose nods thoughtfully. I'll go, but count me out of organizing it. I have an actual job to do as well as homework. You tell them. You were at work this morning, and you're hoping to stay late tomorrow so you can get some tutoring with Miss Paint. You don't need to overtax yourself this much, but good God, you are going to. I'll go, but I think I'm gonna go have a nap right now, Dave says. Solix nudges him in the small of his back, and that seems to push Dave into walking off with Solix trailing him. He does not look good, but I bet you have a different opinion on that, right, Carcat? Rose smiles at you. Bye, Rose, you say far too loudly and see Dave jump a little in the distance. Without another word, you start to walk back to your room. You have a reasonably productive late afternoon by the evening, mostly catching up on all the readings you missed from your other classes. You grab dinner by yourself and eat on the sofa, watching Judge Judy before you get back to it. You fall asleep content in knowing that you actually got shit done. It should be a peaceful and restful sleep, but it's not. Not when you're woken up at ass o'clock at night by something landing on your legs. You scream and slap the lights on, knocking the lamp off the bedside table in the process. It still throws up light on your wall, though, more than enough to see the fairly grinning Solix perched on his knees on your bed, on either side of your legs. Too bad no one can hear you with that spell, he snickers. What the fuck is wrong with you, you fucking psychopath? You screech at him and smack him in the face with your pillow. Solix is too busy laughing at your answer, and when you check your clock, you see that it's 2:22 a.m. Seriously? Fuck this guy. Glad to see you're walking about again. Now let me break your legs, you asshole, you hiss at him. I'd like to see you try, Solix grins. You fall back onto your bed with a sigh, covering your face with both hands as you try to get yourself together enough to talk to this bastard. The fuck do you want? Why are you here? You groan. Believe it or not, I didn't just come here to jerk your chain. Solix tells you, and you lean up on your elbows to glare at him again. If not my chain, then what? You snap. Solix laughs, clearly surprised, and you replay the words back in your head. That sounded, damn it, not what I meant, you growl at him. Sure it isn't, he says with a grin. What do you want? You grit out, one word at a time. The smile fades from Solix's face, and he looks away from you for a moment, seeming to think, and when he speaks, it's very carefully done. Since our combat class, have you remembered anything else? He asks in a quiet voice. No, I haven't, and it's stupid because I've spent all this time trying to remember things, and when I do, it's something I wish could have stayed forgotten. It wasn't pleasant, you say bitterly. Yeah, I can relate. You get the shit lunk, huh? I remember everything, even things I would rather not. And you finally get something back, and it's something like that, he laughs without humor. Did you know about that memory before? You ask. He obviously knew something about the guy in your memory. Not exactly. You alluded to shit. There was stuff you were empathetic to that someone who hasn't been through it couldn't really be. I knew of the guy. I had a hunch. Solix says softly. He shifts to lean against your bedroom wall now, and you sit up properly to move, so you're basically sat next to him with your legs hanging off the bed. You knew about the weapon, though, you point out. Obviously. He nods and stretches his legs out next to yours, too. Can't you tell me how you know that? You guess. Nope. Solix sighs. Silence falls between the two of you. Despite the fact that he woke you up by scaring the shit out of you, this doesn't actually feel uncomfortable. You said before about how you're a super high-ranking demon and all. How many people are actually a higher rank than you? You ask carefully. Why do you want to know? Solix asks suspiciously. Humor me, you say. You have a feeling if you tell him why, he won't be able to answer. That depends on your definition of people, Solix asks you carefully. You think for a moment, and you think for a moment, and word your answer as best as you can. Living people on this plane or hell, you say slowly. There's only one whole-ass living person on Earth or hell that outranks me, he says very deliberately. You nod. That either means that whoever wrote the spell that's on you is that one person, or is someone who has since died. The spell on me is demonic, you state simply, and Solix just stares at you. I didn't get to translate it because someone destroyed my notebook. Thanks for that, by the way, you add a little sharply. You should be thanking me, he mutters. Shut up. I don't think you did this spell because it seems stronger than you are. I don't think you'd inconvenience yourself this much for no reason. So it's either someone who outranks you now, or did, and is dead, or whatever now, you say. Solix is conspicuously silent. You turn and look at him. He's watching you with all of his eyes, glowing in the dim light of your room because the way you slapped your lamp off your bedside table. The volume at which he's not commenting on what you said is incredible. Why should I be thankful that you burned my notebook? You ask him instead. Because... Solix pulls a face and pauses as he presumably tries to word something right. Yes, you prompt. Consider this. You have a bomb. You want the bomb... You want to not have a bomb that will explode. You can either A, blow it up, or B, very carefully disarm it. Both result in you no longer having a bomb that will explode, he says. So fucking with the spell more and brute forcing it like I did by mistake will blow it up when it's all over me? You ask him worriedly. Metaphorically, possibly literally. That's why I'm here. Like I said, I wasn't just to jerk your chain. I wanted to get a better look at the thing now that I have my hands, he says, and pulls his legs back up onto your bed. Before you can ask what he's on about, he turns and swings one leg over yours and sits himself down on your lap, as if he owns the place and possibly also you. Hey, you squawk in alarm. Shut up. Let me look already. Or let me look at you, he grumbles as if you're making a fuss out of nothing. Solix leans in close to you and raises his hand to your face. Instead of the warm snake scales touching you, it's delicate gray skin and sharp golden nails against your cheeks. His larger set of eyes flutters closed, and it's his smaller set looking at the magic that runs over you. You're frozen in place. You can feel as he touches the magic that winds over your face. It's very much not your skin, but he's also touching that too. Your heart is hammering, and you don't think it's just because he could put one of your eyes out with those claws. You stare at him. Not that you have a choice because he's so close up. Your fried brain notices dumbass things. He has longer eyelashes than you might think with his smaller eyes. But then you did just think that they were smallish eyebrows before, didn't you? His regular ones are pretty long too. You fucked with this a little, Soluk says quietly, though you can hear him perfectly well with how close he is. You mean to say something like, oh, did I? But it comes out more as a garbled and stressed out vowel sound. I need to fix this up so your brain doesn't accidentally explode if you pull more weird shit like you always seem to, Solux mutters. Don't you want me to remember? You blurt out. Solux's hand is still on your face. This would look odd to anyone else with him sat in your lap, with his face so close to yours. Maybe you wouldn't want to. You remembered something already and you didn't like it. This could be better for you, Solux says gently, even though he looks pained to say the words. But you remember, it's only you and the other demons, right? Isn't that lonely for you? You knew me before, and I get that you don't really... It must suck for you, doesn't it? You ask him quietly. Solux hesitates, but you go on. Besides, I think if anything happened to me, then I lived through it once. I should be strong enough to handle it. I want the truth, even if it sucks in places, you tell him. You weren't sure about it before, but now that you're talking to Solux, you know it's the right thing. Solux is staring at you with all of his eyes now, and you watch as he leans back and rubs his temples with his fingers, clearly stressed out. Hell, how are you still? You don't remember shit, and you're still like this, he says under his breath. You open your mouth, but Solux speaks before you can. Shut up, he tells you. I didn't say anything, you protest. Good, keep it that way for once. Let me do what I came here to do, Solux retorts, and puts his hand on your face again. Whatever he does feels a little like you were laying in bed and someone tugged at the sheets underneath you, straightened out the creases. It's something that would feel weird, movement where there shouldn't be, but it's not painful or exactly unpleasant, just odd. The weirdness of it has you digging your fingers into his knees to try and stay still because even though he's not trying to, he could really damage you with those claws. Seemingly satisfied, he leans back a little and takes his hands away from your face. Feel okay? He checks and you nod. It's weird, but fine. Your eyes flicker away from him and fall to your tarot deck on your desk. The Two of Swords, all about sacrifice. Hey, I know you were a snake before. You start out slowly. I was aware of everything, he says before you can keep going. I know that. I mean, I just wanted to thank you for getting me out when you can talk back this time. Even if it was kind of your fault I ended up in Midnight City in the first place, you still died to get me out, and that's huge. Thank you, you tell him. Backhanded, but you're welcome. You called me at the worst possible time. Any other time, and I would have been able to take you back myself, but I needed to call Slick to take you. I didn't think you'd end up there, he admits. Yeah, shit really hit the fan in that dig in Japan, you say flatly. Solux freezes. He was halfway through rubbing the back of his neck, and now his arm is just held in place as he looks at you with wide eyes. Come on, I read the news. I watch the news. I read. The timing was just a little too spot on to be a coincidence, and I worked that out with my tea leaf reading was literally the Japanese flag, and the spade wasn't just spade slick, but a dig. With a spade, you point out. I can't tell you anything about that, he says tightly, and you believe him. What else is new? You snort, and take your hands off your knees as if to gesture at all the surprise you don't have. Of course, that makes you realize that you had your hands there for quite some time. Anyway, I just wanted to say thanks. You saved my ass then, and you may have just stopped my head exploding or something now, you thank him. Well, I've got your back, Solux mumbles. Yeah, right. If you had my back, I'd expect to find a kick me sign stuck to it afterwards, you snort in amusement. You say that like not wanting you to die in another plane of reality, but wanting you to trip up in a hallway are mutually exclusive, Solux points out. Oh, when it comes to you, I know they're not. You would do both, you say and roll your eyes. Solux opens his mouth as if to say something, but then doesn't, looking away from you and closing it again. He looks so contemplative and full of burdensome secrets. What? You ask him quietly. Solux seems to shake himself and flash you a grin. He reaches out and touches the very tip of your finger to the bridge of your nose, right where that invisible spell is. Stop touching yourself so much, Carcat. You'll go blind, Solux says teasingly. The moment you parse the innuendo, you go to smack him away, but he vanishes in a puff of smoke and laughter. It almost seems to hang in the room after he's gone, as if he was some demonic Cheshire cat. You fall sideways on your bed and sigh. You hate him so much. End of chapter! Wow! Oh, I love this chapter so much. Oh, I love this chapter so much. Oh, the way he hates him so much. Oh, we get so much information this chapter. Oh my goodness. There is so much here. Oh, there's so much here to parse through. So much happened. For any of my first time listeners / readers, you guys got any theories? You got any theories? I guess you might need time to like process, but got any theories going on about what we're sneaking up on? About what Carcat might be? We're getting hints. Oh, it's okay. I gotta check. Is next chapter the Halloween chapter? Please tell me the next chapter is the Halloween chapter. Oh, I can't tell. No theories. I've never read Homestuck's no terminology. I will say this mystery, not like it's not a Homestuck thing. The species that Carcat isn't a Homestuck thing. I will say that you don't need to know Homestuck to put pieces together. At least I don't think so. But yeah, but no theories from me. All right. It helps if you know characters. Yeah, I guess that's true. Because I guess if you know, I'm not gonna speculate too much. Actually. I'm not gonna speculate because I know. You know what I mean? I'm like sitting here like, how is I so blind? For real. Some weird species of demons, but he's like not really a demon. I don't know, I'm bad at theorizing things. Next chapter is the Halloween chapter. Yes! Next chapter is the Halloween chapter. Wait, how long is it? Let me check. Let's see the timestamp. Because this was a fucking hefty chapter. Oh, it's gonna be another hefty chapter tomorrow. We got another 2-hour stream tomorrow, baby. Wait, does it keep? Oh, okay. Okay. Don't. Okay, that's shorter. Okay, we're just don't read. Okay. Yeah. It's just in general. Everything's a bit. All the word counts are higher. It's so. How did it take me so long to figure it out? I didn't figure it out until the reveal. I will say. Because I'm a dumb little guy. Oh, this is not the right chapter. Yeah, this is not the right chapter. Okay. There we go. Okay. I hope nobody was looking at that as I was scrolling past. I love looking through them. The comments are also fun because they're old enough where it's like people are theorizing. Sorry, I'm just like skimming. If I think reading the comments is actually like really fun if you haven't. If you want to like think about theories, people in the comment sections, as long as you stay in the same chapter, people don't, and like you just stay on like the first 2 pages, you know, you just check the timestamp, right? And make sure it's not more recent stuff. It'll be people talking about it with no spoilers, and that's kind of fun. There's also, it's funny, I found this document, this really fucking big ass document. Where is it? Do I have it? Is it in my bookmarks? Yes. Wait. Okay. Sorry. I just want to make sure. I don't want to accidentally. Yeah. It's this big ass document that somebody made as Alternate Universe was coming out. And it has like, and they were updating it with like theory form, like theorizing everything going on. And now that it's fully sadly it's fully updated now, and like with everything that happened. But it's like somebody like going chapter by chapter and like deciphering like, what could this mean? You know, it's really cool to see somebody's like full thought process. So when we finish the fic, I was gonna bring up, because it's like a 26-page document of like some random reader like going big, fully in depth, and like deciphering all of it as it was coming out. It's pretty cool. And we can look at it after we finish the series. Because it's also fun to be like, because like I'm reading this now and I've reread it before, but it's so fun on a reread, and you're like, wait, oh, this is because of that thing, and this means that thing, and you know, this and that. I'd give tips or advice on figuring stuff out, but I also want, yeah, that's the thing of like, and it's also something that's kind of a hard thing to balance when writing the summaries, because in the summaries there's specific foreshadowing moments that are like small. And it's like, okay, but if I point those out and I draw attention to those, that's like weird, right? Like I shouldn't be drawing, it's weird to draw attention to specific things, because you wouldn't normally think about that. So it's kind of hard to like avoid doing that in the summaries. But at the same time, I think all the hints and stuff, like, and all the little things do lead up to like, oh, this is kind of suspicious, you know. I think one of those, and I think that it's a little bit more, I don't think that this is crazy, like, oh my god, this is out of nowhere, but like June, right? June has for some reason is being kind of weird with the knowledge that she has, and the most obvious thing was at the very beginning when she somehow knew Karkat's name before he introduced herself to him. But we keep getting little bits of like weird stuff with June, and it's like, okay, like, you know, I know what the deal with June is, but you know, other people might not, or new readers might not, but you get this suspicion that stuff's going on, you know. All things I've forgotten and things with him now that would make, yeah, we got so much on Karkat. Yes, absolutely. I can slightly see the foreshadowing, but then it's also like, okay, but I wouldn't be able to say that Karkat is blank, you know? Like, I get the stuff he can do, but because he's blank, but not that he is blank. And I'm no, yeah, I totally get you, Celeste. I totally get you. Yeah. I think it's easier, I think, when you like put everything in bullet points of like, okay, these are the powers he has, and like looking at that, and you're like, and like this is all the weird interactions he's had. And, you know, you can kind of think about it. Because, like, some people in the comments at this point in some of the previous chapters have been able to start theory crafting and, like, parsing things together. So it is possible. But part of it is, like, you don't know what the options are. That's also true. Like, people are like, okay, well, maybe he's you know, he's somehow related to gods. Like, and that's such a generic thing, right? Yeah, it's easy to pick one. Yeah. I totally get you, Skitty. Yeah, because we don't have like a clear, you know, understanding of all of the possible like species in alternate universe. We don't have like a list, you know. That's why Karkat's like half despairing, is because he doesn't have a fucking list to go through, right? But that's what tripped me up for the longest. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I didn't realize that was an option. Yeah. All right. I will stop vague talking about this now, and we will continue tomorrow, and we will be doing chapter 12 tomorrow. It'll probably be another 2-hour stream, so we'll start at 9 p.m. EST, unless, you know, you want to do it a little bit earlier, and like an hour earlier, because it'll probably go late again. But if you're still fine with the 9 p.m. time, then we can do it as normal. I'm down for whatever. But yeah, other than that, I don't mind doing it. Awesome. All right. Then tomorrow, 9 p.m. EST, we will be doing the Halloween chapter. One of my favorite chapters. I've been saying that a couple times. I really love the Halloween chapter. So I'm excited. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys all tomorrow. I will update the chapter summary before stream tomorrow. So if you need a refresher, blah, 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 as always. And yeah, hope you all have a lovely, lovely, lovely rest of your night. And yeah, all right, bye-bye, guys. Good night. Bye-bye. Wow.